Welcome to Spotlight Sportcast, where the world of sports meets the power of storytelling. My guest for today is Hollie Murphy. She is an athlete, a coach, as well as the founder of Heroes of Hope, an organization that concentrates on the empowerment of athletes of determination. Hi, Hollie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
It's a pleasure. It really is.
Thank you.
I love your energy. It's
because of the long drive here. I'm full of energy. Sat in the car for too long.
Yeah, it kind of does that to you.
Yeah, it's Dubai. It's Dubai traffic. Yeah.
Hollie, coach, athlete,
Yes.
Heroes of Hope.
Yes.
How did it all come together?
I don't know. God's way. I really don't know. I think I don't know. I think sometimes on reflection, when I do think back to kind of where it all began, I think a lot of it is destiny. I think you're kind of born to do things, and I think as much as you try to avoid that path, I think eventually in time you always pull back onto it.
Yeah.
I've always said, I was very fortunate as a young person. I was introduced to sport at a very young age.
Okay.
My dad did play rugby, but more importantly, my mom did have 4 children. And I was the one that was bouncing off the walls. So my mother needed to get rid of one of us, so that was me. So yeah, I was introduced to sport at a very young age. So I started just by running around in the local fields, really, in the parks at home in Dublin City in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I was introduced to athletics from quite a young age. So I started running, and then from running I was then introduced to other sports like basketball and handball and Gaelic football and camogie, you name it, I played it, which are national Irish sports at home, especially Gaelic football and camogie. So I don't know a life without sports, to be honest. It was everything to me. It gave me a sense of belonging, it gave me identity, it gave me a purpose for every single day.
Okay.
School was challenging, I wasn't very academic.
Yeah.
But I think my motivation, for school was the sports side of it. Like by going to school and get my lessons done, I knew after school I could go and play sports.
You're like, it's going to be over soon, so I'm going to do what I want to do.
Absolutely. And I think even the teachers kind of use sport as a way to bribe me to get my work done.
Yeah.
They'd be like, look, if you get this done, you can go over and play a bit of basketball. I'm like, okay, I'll get it done. And now I can go. Yeah, there was moments where I definitely jumped out the school window to get across to the sports hall.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there was always that draw, to sports. And I think it was a huge outlet for me, and just it gave me focus. It gave me a character, I suppose. It built my personality and who I am today, and definitely friendships and community. So I think without even realizing it, I was kind of building my own toolbox, which then paved the way, I think, for Heroes of Hope, essentially. So when I realized I wasn't going to be an Olympic champion, it's just because, back then there wasn't the same opportunities for female sports as there is now. So I think as a female back then who was very involved in sports and took my training quite seriously, I really did, and I was very disciplined. Like I remember waking up at 6 a.m. on a cold, wet morning in Ireland to go out to the park to go running. That's just kind of, it was built into you. It was just it was a systematic thing really for me. But those opportunities simply weren't there. It was kind of like you went to school, you played your sports, you played as high as you can get in the country, and then after that, what's next? There was no professionalism in it. There was no payment packages. So I think as females back then, we always had to rely on education to pave a way and a pathway for that. So I chose to become a PE teacher. Essentially, I was like, well, I know how to do that. Let's go do it. And it was nice as well. It meant that I got to actually study abroad. So I went over to the UK.
Yeah.
I didn't stay in Ireland. I went over to the UK, and that introduced rugby. And that's the sport that I currently play now as well. So that's nearly 20 years ago. Oh,
yes.
Giving away my age. But I think it's just, that was just a natural progression over. I went to study sports science with geography, and then I went on to become a PE teacher. And then when I became a teacher, I actually made a decision then to move out here to the Middle East. Yeah. So I was pretty young coming out here. But again, the reason I've stayed so long in the UAE is actually for sport. Yeah. So it's kind of in a really, really weird way. Like I said, I think without even realizing it, your path is kind of built for you, and you just keep traveling it until you end up where you need to be. So that's kind of how it's happened. And I think end up in the Middle East doing Heroes of Hope after all those trainings and competitions. And, I've used all of that now to build a not-for-profit sports academy for children and adults with special needs. So that's kind of my purpose right now. And that's what I'm doing.
It is. It's strange how life kind of leads you to your purpose without you even realizing it.
Definitely. And I think I do have a lot of faith, like it's God's way really, and you can't challenge that. I think he's going to always pull you back onto that path, no matter how far you try to divert. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, I think we're humans, we will go through our struggles, and
definitely,
you know, we'll go through those hard times, and dark places will always happen. But I think, you know, having that faith and finding purpose, I think that makes that journey a little bit easier, because you can always get pulled back into that, and that helps you just to keep moving forward. And I think that's a big reason why Heroes of Hope is called Heroes of Hope. It is for a community where we really model what hope is and what it feels like, and to be able to see it as well. So that's why, you know, Heroes of Hope is so important to me and the families and in what we do. I think it gives everybody a little bit of hope, and, you know, even through challenging times, you know, you can lean into it and have a positive experience that will, you know, allow things to be that little bit easier, and to allow us to keep moving forward no matter how fast or slow that momentum is. So, yeah.
You know, a friend of mine always says to me, you've got to always find the why. And
1,000%.
You know, like, it's always got to be, I mean, you talk about we all go through difficulties, and I think women in sport more than normal, some unnecessary, but yeah, we go through it because we remember the why.
I think so. And I think there's frustration in sports obviously as well. Like, you always want to try and do the best that you can possibly be. And I think sometimes you don't reach the goals that you expected and you put on yourself. And I think, you know, then you start questioning the why and all of it. And I think it's easy then for women just to give up and maybe get distracted with other, I suppose, women duties, you know, being a mother, and, you know, there's nothing against that, but, like, you know, sometimes you're like, okay, I'll give up, that's it. But I think nowadays, more and more women now are not giving up, which is wonderful. Like, I do play rugby, and I've got a number of people who are parents now, you know, and they do have children, but they're still tugging away. And, you know, that's a really positive thing to see, I think, in the female sports right now. And I think now more than ever, women no longer see an age as a reason to stop. I think for such a long time, there was that kind of, why are you still playing sport? Even my dad says it to me. I'm like, excuse you. Yes. I'm going to keep going until my legs fall off, which nearly happened last night, but I'm still here, you know? But yeah, so I think when it comes to women in particular, I think there's a lot of, like, doubt can pop into your head, you know, throughout your journey. And it's very easy maybe to say, do you know what, I'm done now. I can do something else. But I think, you know what, you can keep powering through. I think as women, we're unlimitless. I think there's anything,
I agree, 100%.
I think we can achieve a lot more. And I think, you know, in this new generation coming through, I think that's been proven time and time again. There's more research, there's more studies. So I do think as females, just keep on going, like, do not stop, like, and all your dreams are possible. And I do feel like with sport, it's endless. Like, if you want to try something, go try it. Like, give it a go. You know, do not put that limitation on yourself. And I don't think we should be stopping at any point or anytime soon. So that's kind of...
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I agree 100%. Talking about mothers in sport, like this year at the Olympics, there were so many mothers who medaled.
I know. And it was just... But it's inspirational.
It is.
And I do think it's such a fantastic and exciting time to be a female in sport. I think... You know, like I said before, there's so much more research. I think it's only now that they're having some breakthroughs there into really understanding what a female body can do, even after birth, or, you know, there's so much potential. And, you know, I think we're going to see in the next 10 years, 15 years, a whole other version of female coming through the doors. Times are faster. You know, body compositions are changing, and it's fantastic to see that, though. And it's not even in the Olympics. You've got obviously CrossFit, women's rugby in particular. I know not Dubai, but I know Rugby Sevens made a huge impact at the Olympics, but the standard was mind blowing. I was like, this is incredible. Like, the skill set, the fitness levels, the physicality of the game. It's a whole different version of the game which I first played 20 odd years ago to where it is now. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, I think. And I think as a little girl should be excited because the opportunities and, again, the pathways in front of them, again, is limitless. And I think as parents, you should really encourage your little girl to get involved in sport, because it's not even just about competitions and medals. It's about developing their personality, their confidence, self-worth, you know, which are really important things, particularly for females. I think we can be quite hard on ourselves. Very
I think hard on ourselves.
With sport, I think you can instill a sense of, like, positive confidence. You know, not even arrogancy, but that confidence, that self-worth, which you can carry through into lots of different areas, not just in your sport, but into your careers, into relationships, and having that value and self-worth on you as a person. But also, obviously, the extended value, which is having friends and lifelong friends and your extended family, which definitely comes with sport. Because I know I wouldn't know what to do without like my teammates and so on. Like they're very valuable to me, and they're very, very important to me, particularly living abroad, like and living away from home. Like they are the extended family. So I think for little people coming through, or little girls coming through the sports world, there's so much more happening than ever before, and they should be excited and motivated to be part of it. So yeah, I think I'm really do stand by that. Yeah, big time.
No. Look, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, if you look at when you started playing rugby, and I'm sure it was so frowned upon. You started at university. And when you look at a lot of rugby players now, yes, there's structures at the bottom that are coming up, which is excellent. It's great because then girls can start younger. I mean, they start with touch rugby and all of that. But a lot of the players that you see now started at university.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I was one of those players as well.
Yeah.
I started at university. I remember trying rugby because my dad played it, but again, it was mostly boys. When I played, again, when I go back to Irish sports, when I played I call it camogie, that's the Irish version. The boys version is called hurling. It's the same sport. But I actually played hurling. I played with the boys. I remember my brother's like communion day, a bus of the boys pulled up because they wanted me to go play the match. And I was like, okay, I've got to go, guys. And I jumped on a bus full of the boys and off we went to go play a hurling match. Like that was just the norm back then, you know? Because back, again, it's just, there wasn't those opportunities. Girls did not really play sports. And it was almost like, oh, she's a bit special. She plays sports. I'm like, I do, yeah. That was kind of like my hidden, it was my identity.
Your
I was
superpower.
I've got 2 older sisters and they were obviously really into other things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're very different. We're chalk and cheese. But I was always introduced as a sporty one. I'm like, that's me. Yeah. You know, when you talk about Spice Girls, who's going to be Sporty Spice? That's me. You know, so it's kind of like, yeah. So, but like, it did give you an identity then growing up. But like back then there wasn't what there is now. And times are changing and it's positive things to see that. But yeah, rugby in particular, didn't get the opportunity until university. It was mad because I actually went to university on a basketball scholarship. I played basketball at quite a high level at home. I loved playing basketball. My ambition was actually to go to America. Tried America out for one summer. Just wasn't for me. I came back being like, this is actually not my pathway. I'm not meant to be there. It just didn't bring out the best in me. I didn't feel like I could play to the level that I knew I could play at. So I made a kind of very quick detour to go to the UK. Started on the basketball scholarship, and after 1 year into it, unfortunately, my basketball coach passed away suddenly at home in Ireland. And I think when he went, I kind of felt a bit lost in the sport. It wasn't the same for me anymore. So I decided to try out rugby, and then I never looked back really. But it were transferable skills from playing basketball and handball and playing like hurling and other things growing up. I was able to use that skill set and try out a new sport, which was a really good thing. And then I walked onto a field and there was 20 other women playing it. And then naturally I had all these friends. So like, you know, it was really, really great. And I found like a lot of these girls came from all over the UK. They weren't just Irish people. They were from all over the UK. And that was my introduction, I think, my first introduction to like a new culture, a new mindset, you know, new types of people, because Ireland is a very small island. And all of a sudden this whole world was opened up to me, and it was, to be honest, I'm very grateful for it, and it was a great time, and I enjoyed learning this sport and being part of it. Back then I thought I knew it all. I did not. But then after I finished playing rugby in the UK and moved out to the UAE, again the first thing I looked for was a rugby team. Because I knew by moving into another country, if I could find a rugby team to play for, naturally I was going to have friends. You know, I was going to have a group of people I could lean into. You know, I'd have people I could hang out with and just talk to. And that's exactly what happened. And here I am 20 years later playing for the UAE women's rugby team. So it's been a journey, put it that way, you know.
We're going to come back to that playing for the UAE. I just want to take you back to the Olympic finals, the basketball, since basketball was
Diana
one of your first
number
loves.
12.
And I look both the men and the women's finals. I think they were such phenomenal games. Like,
but no, it is exceptional the level they get to. But in saying that, the US have funded a pathway for male and females in particular, to be like a professional player, and that clearly stands out at the Olympics when they go to compete. I know the US were saying that. I think it's 3 or 4 weeks before the Olympics. That's actually when the team comes together to play. So sometimes they're not used to playing together, which is their only challenge. But in terms of their athletic abilities and skill set, my God, you know, they're like streaks ahead of everyone. Well, the US, I think, is like their 7th Olympic or 8th Olympic medal, like in a row. So you can't argue that.
No.
But again, it shows that by having support from young ages,
Yes.
you know, talent identification, you know, bringing it into a professional level and allowing these women to play their sport professionally and focus 100% on just that, what they can achieve, which
Yes.
is remarkable. Because most women, I think if you heard in the Olympics, a lot of the comments you were saying, well, she's a doctor, she's a data analyst,
Yes.
she's one of these, like, so a lot of these women who are out there rowing, running, whatever, they are juggling multiple things and also becoming Olympic champions. I'm like, I'm embarrassed. You know, like the level of what they're achieving, it's incredible.
Yeah, you kind of sit back and you're like,
You question your life choices, but
like,
yeah.
am I doing enough?
Yeah,
Really?
but this is where it is, I suppose. Like when you're looking at the Olympics and you're looking at these Olympians, like essentially they are superhuman. Like the discipline, the organization, just even the mindset to be able to juggle and manage all that, it is phenomenal. But equally, like you did see, like with the women and men's basketball, with a professional status and having just the ability to focus on that one thing, what they can achieve, it is remarkable. But I think the women's rugby, the sevens, some of the teams have gone that way. I think some of them are more like a professional team now.
Yes.
And again, it's allowed that sport to develop very, very quickly because as females, you're able to focus on just your sport. You can train properly, look after your body properly, look after your mind properly, and then go out and give it your best. So it's been really lovely to see that happening as well. And exactly, that's why you're seeing the change now happening in women's sport, because there is those investments now happening. So women now can actually do what they're passionate about and focus 100% of that rather than trying to split themselves up. So it's been really good to see that.
No. It was actually mind-blowing. And I mean, having an Olympic village that also took care of nursing mothers and stuff like that. Long time overdue, but it's finally there. It would be nice to see other federations move in the same direction as well.
100%. But I think after the Olympics, I think having, you know, like all those things being implemented and put in place. I know there's a lot of ex-Olympians who have campaigned for that. So that was wonderful to see that happening.
Yes.
And I think it's actually made people think twice about the level of support perhaps that females do need.
Yes.
But that support is possible. And by implementing it, again, what can be achieved. But I'm still blown away by these Olympic females who are trying to nurse their children as well as focus on Olympic Games. I'm like, what? Like, I don't have children, I don't have kids, but like I have 3 dogs. But when I'm trying to get ready for like a local game, I'm like, no dogs, don't talk to me today. You know, I need to get in my zone. Stop barking at me, no cuddles, no. But like how they do that and then switch to being a mother and then switch back into being an Olympian. Yes. I think that's, again, it's a credit to the females. Like, it just shows their power and what they kind of do. So it's amazing. So hopefully moving forward, I think now after the Olympics, federations are starting to review and they're thinking, yes, we need to invest in female sports. I think after the US, I'll go back to rugby again, the US women's team, they got a private investor. And she straight away went, I want to invest like 4 million into this.
But for me, that was like so amazing. It was like, here they go, they get a bronze medal and somebody says, hey, listen, I got to invest in this because I can see how much these women can achieve with the right kind of investment.
Yeah, it is. And like, it's just that was a statement, if you ask me. I was like, wonderful. I think Ireland, where I'm from, did something similar. They just said they're going to put like 400 million now into their sports and start really pushing, particularly for women's sports.
Yes.
I think, you know, Ireland being a very small island, we did very well at the Olympics, but based on very, very little funding, you know. But I think now a lot of people are starting to think, well, do you know what? If we can fund these athletes, like getting to the Olympic platform is a huge stage. It's a statement. It is a little bit political.
Massive.
Let's get real here. Like, but the amount of pride it brings to countries, it is crazy. It brings so much emotion. It brings countries together. Like, I think it actually does bring peace on the world for those for those weeks. Everyone's just glued to it. Everyone wants to watch it. You're empowered by it. It is changing people's lives because they're watching this going, you know what, maybe I can do that. Or maybe my child can do that. Like, it's a huge thing. So by investing in it, I think you're not just investing in an athlete, you're investing in your nation and you're investing like in so much positivity and hope. So there's so much more. It's not just about the athletes themselves, it's everything else that comes with that. So, yeah.
No, look, it does. For me, I always go back to Brian Habana. You know, Brian Habana was 11 years old when he started playing rugby, and it's because South Africa held the Rugby World Cup, and he was sitting there watching this match, and he went on to be one of the greatest rugby players of all time.
Yeah.
You know? And you look at that and you say, it's all about what you have in you and how much you want it.
Absolutely. And then obviously, like, don't get me wrong, sport does cost money.
Yeah.
It really, really does. And not everyone has that. So I think by having investment plans in place, particularly for the youth coming through, you know, it can definitely support younger generation, particularly those that perhaps are coming from poverty or very difficult situations. I think it allows them to step away from all of that and giving them a choice to step away from that.
Yeah.
And allowing them to step into a world where they realize anything is possible if you've got that self-belief. They're surrounded with coaches who believe in them 100%. They're introduced to life that does bring discipline and organization, which is, you know, key to any sort of success. So I think that's where, again, having these funds in place, it can transform lives and it can change so much. So I think it's just really, really important that those things are put in place and, you know, people start to open up and realize, you know what, we can do this. Because I'm a big believer, particularly with the work that I do at Heroes of Hope, as a not-for-profit sports academy, like we rely heavily on funding.
Yeah.
Like I never want sport to be a burden to a family.
Yeah.
In terms of like financial burden, I really never want that to be the case. So as best as I can, I try to lean into like the donation side of things or CSRs to allow us to grow a new style of athlete. Yes, they may have intellectual disabilities. They may have a physical disability. However, they are still an athlete in my eyes. If you help us fund what we do, it allows me to create a platform where I can develop the very best version of them despite their individual needs. That's not my core focus is their individual needs. My core focus as their coach is to make sure that they are becoming the very best version and very best athlete that they can become. But like, unfortunately, you know, that does start with financial support.
Always.
You know? And the world, for me, there's an abundance of wealth in this world. You know, it doesn't always have to be companies that are doing it, but like personal investment is always, you know, a positive thing to start with. You know, like that lady, she gave out $4 million to the US rugby team. And look how grateful they were. They're like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Like it was phenomenal. Like, but we do come from a world of abundance. You know, there's so much luxury out there, and sometimes we just waste money. And I'm like, I look around and I'm like, what that person spent money on, like, you know, where you can change lives. And I feel like changing someone's life, you're leaving a legacy. You know, even setting an example, even if you have children and stuff or whatever, you're setting an example, being like, if you are a giving person, service beyond self, like, you know, let's break down all those kind of egotistical barriers that, you know, I want the nice car, I want the nice house. But in fact, a quarter of those costs can actually change people's lives, you know, and, you know, so much more can happen. So that's kind of my perspective on that whole funding and how it should be used. I just feel like we have too much in this world. We do.
And if we channel it into the right people and the right places,
100%.
So much more could be achieved and so many more lives could be changed.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So I hope like moving forward, that's kind of, especially through the Olympics, I think some of those messages start to come out that like, you know, we could be giving more to athletes, not just female athletes, but sport as a whole. You know, let's start thinking a bit more about it. Because there's so many people out there, I think, through sport who are like tapping into some like key areas. There's, I think it was a Brent Hope I was listening to a podcast there recently, and he's trying to change like mental health for men. And that's a really positive thing.
Important.
And I'm like, you know what? There's some really good people in this world. Like, and again, if people start to research a bit more and dig a bit deeper, they can see that there's so much more that can be achieved through sport. It's not just about the performance. There's so many layers to this. Like I said, with our organization, I've built it all around hope. Like I do have families who, God love them, you know, they have been born with a child with some disabilities, which has been very, very challenging to accept or to, you know, I suppose live with at times. Like they know that some of these children will depend on them for the rest of their lives. But through what we do, we have competitions every weekend. We train them every single day. You know, so every day when they finish, maybe they're homeschooled or maybe they're going to a centre. And when they finish, they know, okay, they'll go to Hollie now and they're going to do a bit of boxing for an hour, or they're going to do a bit of CrossFit, or they're going to go to track and field. And at least then they're coming to us. We're like, okay, let's go. We're running today. Like I treat them, and as an athlete should. I'm like, right, come on, let's go. We got to get moving.
Because they are an athlete at the end of the day.
And then they know, right, okay, in 2 weeks' time they have that competition coming up. So they're, you know, rearranging their family life around the competition. You know, the siblings come and watch their brother or sister compete like in an adaptive event, and it's brilliant. Like, you know, it's great to see that. But again, you know, that's the positive layers in sport. It's not always about the performance. It's the community. It's the friendships. It's, you know, just so much motivation behind it that can happen. But you just need to look beyond, which I find with sport is always, what we always see is posters of the people winning the medals.
Yeah.
We don't see what's going on behind the scenes.
The work that it takes, it's always, as you know, Usain Bolt always said, it took him how many years to run 9 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all about that. But I also love what you said about the fact that somebody has an intellectual or physical disability does not define them or doesn't make them who they are. And the work that you do makes them realize at the end of the day that I'm me and I can achieve anything I want to achieve.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, this has been a very challenging thing to take on. You know, we are now like in full operation into 4.5 years of full operation. So before that, like I said before, I was a PE teacher and I left my career to focus full time on developing children with determination in sport. I felt like when I was a PE teacher, I know things are changing now, but particularly when I was in the school system, they were very exclusive.
Yes.
When it came to children with additional needs. Yes, they were in school, but they weren't allowed in my PE class.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he not in my class today? He's gone off for extra lessons and extra this. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, sport is key for these children because they have a lot of frustrations because if they're non-verbal, they can't express themselves. So by running a little bit or banging on a boxing bag or lifting some heavy weights, all the frustration and stress starts to, reduce. You know,
they find an outlet for themselves.
Like a lot of the families have said to me they didn't understand that their kid was able to socialize the way that they can because again in a sports environment it's always about high fives, well done, you're doing a great job. So there's that constant affirmation is important to these children. So it's something they're learning, actually, I did a really good thing here. By jumping on this box, I'll do it again. You know, like, so it's just all this external feedback they get from being part of sport, right? And so for me, I was getting very frustrated that these kids sometimes weren't always allowed to be in my classes. They're being taken, into a classroom, being told to learn how to read this and do that. We, as human beings, we need to move. As human beings, we need to be around others. Like, that's not always the system that's going to work right.
Yeah.
So anyway, as time went on, I then stepped into working with people with determination for lots of reasons. It was my passion. I love working with children with additional needs or children who are coming from disadvantaged areas. That's always that's the big reason why I went into education. So by having kids kind of with these additional needs, it wasn't easy to set this up. There was a huge blockage of mindset.
Yes.
Even sometimes with parents, like, he can't do that. I'm like, bring him. He can do it. And it was like, as soon as we got them going, then eventually parents would come back being like, I never knew he could do that. I'm like, I told you, like, he's so good.
Yeah.
These are athletes. They really are so athletic. And often we've got volunteers because the whole organization is run by volunteers. So often we do get volunteers to pop in to support at our sports events or at our day-to-day activities. And they're like, I didn't realize how fit they are. They're so fit. I'm like, yeah, he can run 10K.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up with them. They're like, we didn't know he could run that fast. I'm like, why? Just because they've got autism doesn't mean he can't do something. Like, we all have to remove this mold right now. It's the same. I do compare it to females in the sport. For such a long time, females were told you cannot do it, right? And I always compare the two. We are now, I feel like we are paving a new generation of athlete. Yes, they might have autism, Down syndrome, and global learning difficulties or something else. So what?
So what? Yeah.
Can
so
do
what?
it.
Yeah.
We need to adapt our mindsets. We need to adapt how we coach, how we deliver information, but we can do it with these children. And or not just children, but young adults as well.
Yes.
So for me, we're not a charity. We're a sports academy. These are athletes. Get behind it, support it, because we are going to breed a whole new generation of athlete eventually. So I think that's kind of my challenge at the moment, and that's what I'm working on. But I think females have gone through the same situation. So there's some similarities, I think, between the both. So that's kind of where I'm kind of learning from being a female, but equally now I'm starting that fight for people who...
It kind of prepared you for what you're doing right now.
And, like, some of my athletes don't have a voice. They do not have a voice, but they have capabilities and they have pure hearts, like hearts of gold. I always say it, I feel like they are God's angels and they're born into our lives for a reason. As soon as you're around them and you embrace them for exactly who they are, you come away from it being a completely different person. Like, it changes you entirely. Like, you'll never be the same again.
Definitely,
you just can't, I can't even compare it. But for me, and being part of that world, I'm seeing sport from a whole new perspective. It is the purity of sport that people don't always see, because as a competitor you get so anxious, you get so nervous, you're you're constantly stressing about your training, your discipline, what you're eating. You know, you're always in that mindset when you're that real serious competitor. I've done it my whole life. I don't know how to live a life any other way. But by being with my heroes and watching them we're a lot more pure about it. We're like, okay, let's get down to training. Wow, you've done all your laps today. Well done. Or, you know, well done today. You've managed to do 10 pull-ups. Like, you're just kind of symbolizing what sports should be about. You know, you did really well today. You've achieved this today. That's fantastic. And these little milestones, I think, are really key. And I think just with being back in the purity of what sports should be about is great. And I watch them when they go to compete at these events. We organize events for them. And I'm a big believer that you're there to compete. We're going to work towards this event. And they go and they do, and it could be like an adaptive CrossFit event, for example, where they have to lift weights or jump over boxes, go on the rowers, go on these assault bikes.
Yes.
And we watch them do it, but their happiness at the end of that event, it could be bronze, silver, gold, or just a participation medal. They've won the Olympics.
Yeah,
with their reactions, you're just like, oh my God. But like every event, I've got to keep it together, even though I've been in it for quite a while. By the end of it all, like you always feel so emotional because what they achieve, it's incredible. Like we've got children with cerebral palsy, and trying to get onto a rower for them isn't always the easiest thing. Trying to get over a box is not always the easiest thing. They'll fall over, they get back up again because they don't have the same balance as you and me. But like their grit, their determination to want to do something and never give up, you're just constantly learning. You know, it's amazing to see it happen. And you're like, oh my God, they're just amazing. So it's very inspirational. It's very motivating to be around that. But that for me is the purity of sport. Like it's sport at its essence. And it's great to be part of that and to be kind of paving what I feel as a new athlete coming through. And I hope more and more people get behind them because they've got so much more to offer and so much that they can do. Yeah.
No, but you like listening to you. I'm so inspired. I never really got into it as much. Look, my whole concentration has always been, well, not whole, 80% of my concentration has always been women in sport and empowering women in sport in South Africa, in Africa, and, you know, helping them understand that they have a voice, giving them platforms where they can use their voice and have visibility and stuff like that. And just recently I started with, I had the very first Women in Sport Disability Summit, you know, and just sitting there with these athletes and them telling their stories and what they feel should be done in the industry for them to go, look, they're achieving at the end of the day. I'm sitting there with Simone, I'm sitting there with KG. KG's a Wimbledon finalist. You're sitting with Simone, who's a world record holder in the F38 discus throw. And they've done so little. They've done so much with so little. And I think I admire so much of what you're doing because at the end of the day, for me, I always say it's creating that opportunity and making somebody believe that they can do this and you provide that platform, which is amazing. And I really, really admire that. I think and I really do hope that your organization grows and more athletes come along and, you know, and sooner Paralympic gold. You never know.
Like it is one of those things like, and do you know what the funny thing is, the organization is predominantly run by women. Like it's like literally, I look at the coaching list, we've got like 90% women. Like who are volunteering and being part of this. Amazing. I always say it is definitely powered by the females, to be honest. It really, really is. And but it's great to be part of that. But like I said, there's a lot of similarities between this area that I'm trying to focus on at the moment and just being a female in sport myself. I think, we've dealt that kind of the hand in life where we do unfortunately have to get through a lot of barriers. So it's it's something new for us. You build that resilience as life goes on, and you learn.
Do, yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and you don't stop. And I feel like that's possibly why I'm in the position I'm in now, particularly with the organization that I run. I think I was given, God gave me the gift of sport, and it wasn't necessarily to be that Olympian. He gave it to me because he gave me the purpose to pass it on to people of determination. And with these children and adults who do have these additional needs, like it's my duty and care to honor that and to make sure that I use my sport and the gift that I was given in sport in the most positive way. So I am a female in sport, and I do obviously love playing sports. I don't know a life without it. I don't know what I'd do without it. But in saying that, like being in a position where I can fight the fight for these athletes, I will do that. And I will ensure that they obviously in time will be given the very best opportunities to excel. but there's a lot of similarities between the
It
two at the
definitely
moment,
is.
you know, so
It definitely-
let's see what happens.
Talking about barriers, UAE national team for rugby?
Yeah, at the moment. Yeah, so that's it. That's where I'm at the moment, you know, is keeping the body together just about. No, like, you know, this has been a journey.
Sure, yeah.
It's been a very long journey. Like I said, I came out here 20 years ago. There wasn't that many rugby teams, but, you know, being part of this league for almost 20 years now, it's been amazing journey. Lots of people have come and gone. We've watched the sport grow, and it's been actually, do you know what? I have thought about it because the opportunities are coming now for females.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously at the back end of my career. And part of me is a bit envious, being like, oh, these young girls coming through, like they're so lucky, they don't know what they have.
But it's also like, I laid the foundation for this.
There is that little part of me going, do you know what, in hindsight,
Yeah.
I've got to see how it's all evolved and how
Yes.
it's changed. And I also know a lot of, there's some rugby legends in this country
Yeah.
who were, you know, they've paved the way for someone like myself and so on. But being part of that, it has been pretty epic.
Yeah.
Just watching it all change and grow and transform. And it's great to kind of be in a position now to see the level at which the rugby now in this particular region has gotten to. We do have Emirati females playing with us. I love seeing that. I love seeing women, you know, from this region being part of this. And it's been great to actually support them, you know, in this game and to teach them a bit more about it and go abroad with them and compete in different competitions. We're particularly attached to the Asian side of things. So we're part of the Asian series now, which is a huge achievement.
Massive,
So we've
yeah.
had it took nearly 3 years to qualify for this. So to qualify and then to go into the Asian series, it's phenomenal for women out here to be part of that, because for such a long time, like rugby just didn't have a place, particularly in this region. Because it is a contact sport. It's very physical.
Very,
you know,
very physical,
there's a
yeah.
lot of fitness attached to it. Like it's actually Dubai Sevens. Sorry,
Yeah.
not Dubai Sevens, Rugby Sevens.
Yeah.
Where we do play at Dubai Sevens. But like Rugby Sevens in particular, it's a very fast-paced game. There's a huge physicality to it. You know, it's a tough game. It's not the easiest, but to be able to watch it now completely evolve over the last kind of 20 years and to see where it's come to now, it is amazing. You know, the men are also doing really, really well. And then the girls are catching up. That's great to see. So this year we're going to have females and the males in the Asian series. So they're actually going to be competing against teams who are coming back from the Olympics. So we're going to have China, we're going to have Japan, you know, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Uzbekistan. Like these are really top quality teams.
Yes.
And, you know, the UAE are about to step onto that same platform with them, you know, and to, you know, fly the flag, which I always believe it is one of the biggest honors is to play for a nation.
Yeah.
I think it's not something in life that you should ever underestimate. And anybody who's gotten to that level, there's a reason they've gotten to that level, and that should be honored. So I think representing any nation and country, I think it's huge pride and it's a privilege, and you know, it's a huge opportunity. So when it happens, just grab it with both hands. You don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sport can be heartbreaking. Injuries do happen, or it just comes a time where you just can't keep going anymore, you know. But when you're in that moment and your time has come, you grab it, you cherish it, and you relish it every single second, and you do whatever you can to just be part of that and embracing it. So again, like I said, representing particularly the UAE, I think it's a huge thing to be part of, and it's a huge honor. And, you know, hopefully we can continue, you know, on this positive pathway.
Yeah.
You never know. One day the UAE could be in the Olympics. You know,
You
we'd
never
love to
know.
see that. The
It's
men's
possible.
team could get to
It's possible.
the World Cup. You know,
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Anything.
I think just having that belief in yourself and belief in your team, I think that's really, really important. But, you know, like I said, 20 years ago, if you told me the UAE was going to make it to this level, I'd be like, yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of, I don't know about that. But now that it's actually happening, I'm like, you know what? It's been a journey. It's been wonderful to be part of it. It's wonderful to see it. And like I said, I think there's an incredible pathway now that's been set up. So for the younger girls coming through, I think you ladies have got such a positive, you know, position now.
Yeah.
So think about playing rugby for the UAE. That's exactly what I will say, because it's been wonderful to be part of it. And again, coming down to like not necessarily always having the, you know, a lot of resources. We've done what we can with what we have. And we've worked really hard to get to that position. So, you know, the squad is still preparing now for, hopefully we're going to go to Korea in September. So the squad are currently actively training and getting ready for that. So let's see what happens. But it's going to be a big day out for UAE, and they're going to be making, what would you say, their debut.
Their
They're
debut.
going to be making their debut. So they'll be flying the flag for everybody here in the UAE. So
Wow.
please God, it all goes well. Yeah.
I do. I wish the team and wish yourself all the best, and I'll definitely be watching. So I do.
Yeah.
But Hollie, thank you so much for joining me today and
No,
having
thank you
this
for having me.
discussion. It's been an amazing discussion. The work that you do is really it's really humbling, and I hope you continue with that and,
So do
and
I.
do so much more of it, and
Yeah.
bring so many more athletes to the fore and help so many more athletes realize their dreams and their achievements and their goals.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.